Hi, my name is Jason. I'm a registered sleep disorders technician, and one thing that I hear a lot about is auto CPAPs, auto titrating CPAPs that are being used in the home. And it seems that some doctors are just setting these at 4 to 20, and I'm going to show you why that's probably like the dumbest thing you could ever do. The problem is when you set it at 4, it gives you a 4-minute window, and what it does is it gets a baseline sampling of your breathing for the first 4 minutes. It assumes you're awake. Then after that, it starts. If you're at 4 centimeters of water pressure and you require 10, it's going to take a while for it to get up there. So meanwhile, during that time it's taking to get up there, you're sitting here suffering, having obstructive apneas or hypopneas or RERAs, and you're not sleeping well. So, and then every time you go to the bathroom, you get up, you turn your machine back on, back into bed, and you go through it again. So doctors need to learn that they need to snug up his pressure a little bit. And so what I've done is I'm going to put a CPAP mask on, and I'm going to watch this thing. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go through the 4-minute baseline, and then I'm going to start breathing with it, and I'm going to try to fool it by stopping breathing, but I'm going to have to close off my throat up here in a way, because what this machine does is it sends a little puff of air in. It's like a ping, and if it doesn't get resistance, it thinks for this machine it calls it an open airway apnea, which is basically a central apnea, different word for it. So I'm going to close off my throat up here so it gets a little feedback when it does the ping, and it calls it an obstructive apnea, and it's going to turn up. We're going to see how fast and how long it takes.
All right, so there's really two main auto CPAPs out there. This is System 1 by Respironics, and so it's a little more conservative. It increases a little slower, so it doesn't over-titrate you. ResMed, on the other hand, uses a different algorithm where if it senses you struggling a ton, we're going really fast here, so you don't have to suffer through this too much. Again, this is just a 4-minute window to get the baseline. ResMed, what they do is they'll jack it up by like 6 centimeters of water pressure and over-titrate you. Well, that's kind of bad, because if you get over-titrated, you start having sleep onset central apneas, which are just as disruptive. So kind of either way, you're screwed.
Okay,
and we're starting. So here we go. Anyway, I was going to say a little bit. You'll see how slowly I'll hold the machine up here in a bit. So if you're on a low pressure, I mean, it's like I already said, you're going to be suffering through all this while you're sleeping, instead of just being on a pressure that's really close to what you need, in like non-REM, non-supine, or non-REM supine, and that would be your low pressure, and then your higher end pressure would be while you're on your back and in REM, and your report would hash that out, and a good doctor would find that. There's a doctor in my area. All she does is puts people on auto CPAPs with 4 being the lowest and 20 being the highest, and her dictations are like, yeah, put them on APAP, 4 over 20, or 4 and 20, and that's it. That's awful. So you'll see how fast we get up here. It's already at 6, just moved up. What I wanted to say about data capable machines is that they're really neat and all the data that it collects is very interesting, but it's really kind of worthless. You don't need all that information, and what it causes you to do is just fret over every little apnea that it says. Well, as you can see here, I'm completely fooling the machine into increasing, and I'm clearly awake. When you move around in your sleep, you sigh in your sleep, there's certain things that occur that can fool the machine into increasing when it actually doesn't need to be increased. The thing that's important is that you need to know that you're asleep, and you just can't get that out of the lab, and that can really only be done in the sleep lab. So really, those people that fret over every single night what their AHI is and everything, it's really kind of almost causes insomnia, because you're sitting there worried about it, when really just focus on, how do you feel the next day? Do you feel good, or do you feel bad? If you feel bad, you probably need to do something about it. If you feel good, don't worry about it. Even if your AHI says around 5, it's still within the acceptable normal range. And a lot of those are probably misdiagnosed, since you can't actually get a hypopnea on the machine because you don't have an oximetry on you, and you don't know that you're asleep. So it looks like we're already at 8 centimeters of water pressure. So really, what is a better thing to do? All of them can tell you how much time you've been on them per night. That's something that's a Medicare requirement to continue using it. But really, things that are important are what's your leak value. That's important. Pretty much that's it. There's really not much else you need to know. If you're not getting the maximum benefit, look to things like, is my mouth dry? That's usually a sign of a mouth leak. If you're using a full face mask and you're still having that, it could be medication related. But you could always try using heated humidity, and if you already are using it, try turning it up a little bit. Look at this. So if you actually require 10 centimeters of water pressure, you're already, including the sleep time, the 4 minutes before, you're already at 10 minutes of suffering prior to it. And that's only if you need 10. So quite a few people are over 10. So if your doctor's not putting you on a tighter range, you need to educate them to this because maybe they're not aware. Or maybe they are aware and you need to change doctors. Here we go, creeping up to 10. 7 minutes, 15 seconds. Plus the other 4 minutes.
So you can see it took me 7 minutes, basically 7 minutes and 20 seconds, whoa, to get it up to the therapeutic level of 10 centimeters of water pressure. But if you were to add the 4 minutes prior to, if someone were to fall right to sleep, it's going to take them about 11 and a half minutes to get up to the therapeutic pressure, where, those 11 minutes you're having back-to-back apneas or hypopneas, and that's assuming you're only at 10. So this is why doctors really shouldn't have a prescription of open-ended being, that was at 5. Some doctors are putting them at 4. So that's going to add another minute and a half to this. So doctors really need to find what the lowest pressure is. So like non-supine, non-REM, what's the requirement for that? And then once you figure that out, that could be the lower pressure or even very slightly below that. And then for the upper limit, just have it go up to 20. There's no point in stopping it and limiting it on that end. But you really need to have that lower pressure closer to where you actually need to be. So hopefully this shed some light on it. It really was the most boring video in the world, but it's a question that gets asked all the time. So if you made it this far, my hat's off to you. Oh, don't forget to visit my forum and my website, freecpapadvice.com and freecpapadvice.com/forum. And you can get wonderful questions like these answered all the time. Thanks.